my gosh, all the time. I am so excited to have you guys here again for this incredible time that we're going to be having together, talking all things what's working and what is not working on social media. Welcome. Thanks for showing up today. My name is Elsie Escobar, and I am the Director of Community and Content for Libsyn, and I get an opportunity to get my hands dirty when it comes to all things social for the Libsyn brand. And I've been, playing around with social for quite a while, since way back in the day, all the way back to 2006. Oh my God. But today, I'm not going to be talking about this conversation all by myself. I have a guest expert today where we are, I cannot wait to hear what she has to say, because everything she does, I am like, what? So let's hello and welcome to Andrea Jones. Oh my God. Andrea Jones is the social media strategist who helps coaches and experts go from stuck to strategic, passion-led powerhouses and visionary thought leaders with her simple approach to social media. Like, take one little step each day, build your social media savvy over time. And I am so excited to have you here because, oh my gosh, Andrea, you and I have been kind of, I've been keeping an eye on you. We work together for so many years now, helping out with the She Podcast brand. We've actually had you come in and consult with Libsyn as well. And there's just so much that I feel you know about the space. And, I was just talking about you on the feed, the official Libsyn podcast. And may I just really quickly just tell you what I said about you really fast?
Yes, please.
I know, please, right? So one of the reasons that I have you having this conversation with our audience is because you use the tools yourself. So you're in it, you get your hands dirty. You don't just do the research, but you actively engage with the platforms. You're creating the content, and you are a podcaster, and you have a business that helps other businesses get their social media up, not necessarily only podcasters, but some of your clients are podcasters. So your point of view is really, I feel like there's such a holistic point of view that you have to social that I'm so excited to have you here because of that.
Oh my gosh, Elsie, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here because I am one of those weirdos who love social media. I'm extremely introverted. Okay, so for me, social media is like my safe space because I can turn it on and do my thing and then turn it off and forget about it for a while. So, but I'm also with you in that I started my first blog in 2004. I was on YouTube in 2007, way before it was cool. So I feel a little OG right now.
Hey, we've been around a lot. Look at this. Sima is here, and Garden Firemark, my co-host. We're doing a show together. I'm so excited to be here. And oh my gosh, so many of our folks are here, which is really, really awesome. So another reason that I have you here too, because in the same way that you get your hands sort of dirty in with the social and actually truly love it, one of the reasons that we have these live events, and for me, something that I've been trying to drive home to our team and to anybody that really comes to these events, is that these things are really helpful. That's one of the key tenets that we want, that this is super helpful to you and that it actually benefits your show so that you keep on podcasting. And one of the hardest things that I've seen, especially with social, is that it is an unbelievable time suck for so many, in so many different ways. And when we get overwhelmed with that, and then we don't know how to set appropriate expectations around that, it becomes it just feels like you're just wasting your time and nothing is having any kind of impact. So when I reached out to you, you had a very clear point of view. as to,
Yes.
or actually we asked if you had something around the subject, and we're really going to be talking about what not to do, what you should be doing, and then you've got some trends that I cannot wait to get into. So, all right, so let's get moving. And I'm going to pass it off
Mhm.
to you. And I want you to let us know right from the get go, what should podcasters stop doing?
Yes, this is one of my favorite conversations because hopefully you feel some relief at the end of this too. Because we all want more listeners, right? As podcasters, we crave more listeners. Social media has infinite possibility for this to connect with people. We don't have to be doing the most though. So, the first thing that I want y'all to stop doing is audiograms. Let me know in the chat. How do you feel about audiograms? Love them or hate them? Audiograms look cool. Do you use them, Ellie?
Yes, yes, they look cool, y'all.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
they look cool. I love how they look. I was a huge fan of them for years, but to be honest with you, they're just not performing that well as a social media asset.
Mm.
So the amount of time that it takes to create one, the amount of resources that you have to put in as a podcaster, and then the impact that it has. You know, the views aren't there anymore. People kind of keep scrolling past and they're not converting as well. You know, when we run very specific tests in our agencies using an audiogram with Facebook ads, they don't perform as well as just a static image would, or even a testimonial from the podcast would. So as much as I love the look of audiograms, give ourselves a break and we can stop doing those. One thing that you can do though, if you're still posting audiograms, go look in your insights. Okay. Whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, many of these platforms actually tell you how many video views and how long people watch the video for. Facebook is great for this. So go into those insights, take a look. If people are only watching 2 or 3 seconds, then it's not enough of a impact for you to keep spending time there.
That's very, very good to know. I mean, I think one thing that I would love for you to tell us is how are you measuring these, right? Because you're saying like they're not performing as well. I'd love to get some data around that. Like, what exactly do you mean by that? And then I have a follow up after you finish that.
Yes. So looking at the watch time, we really noticed this with Instagram Reels and TikToks, actually. So looking at the watch time, we saw our watch time decreasing on our accounts overall when we were using audiograms. Even though we love audiograms, just posting the audio wave with the text on the screen was performing as well. The second thing we were looking through is click through rate. So obviously we want people to go listen to our podcasts, and sometimes people see something on social media, they exit the app and then they go to a different app to listen to that episode. We can't track that data, it's just lost forever. But what we can track are those people who click the links. So on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, we all have link clicks as a metric. So with audiograms, are people clicking the link to go listen to that episode? Okay, that's one thing to check. And then on a platform like Instagram, there's a few steps. They usually have to go to the link in the bio and then click that link. So in Instagram, you can actually see on the post level and on the account level if people are clicking links, going to your profile and clicking the link. So if people aren't doing that, then this may not be an asset that performs well for you. What we have found that works well instead of an audiogram is to use either just a talking head style video instead that shares a little tidbit about the podcast, or if you are extracting audio podcast, using a different background. So using something like a video background, maybe a C-roll footage, and then using the text on the screen, either within an app like Instagram or TikTok, or using some sort of text animation like CapCut. That could be a good alternative. But I want to still emphasize the data here because the data don't lie. And if you're spending a lot of time producing an asset that isn't working, refocus on something that is.
So, kind of to follow up on on some of that because everybody really loves audiograms, and we are actually seeing so much video content coming into the mix. Everybody kind of wants to get into the video game all the way around, right? Like people really, really want to do that kind of stuff. And audiograms feel like a really good first step to be able to do something like that. Is there, can we talk a little bit about what audiograms are good for? And
Mm.
maybe kind of looking at it from that perspective first. And if you can give us a couple of ideas that maybe you have seen, like, oh my God, that was actually incredibly helpful to use an audiogram for.
Yes, actually, we have an audiogram on the She Podcast account that has performed well because it is a hysterical story that you told, Elsie,
Oh, I know.
where it's like funny right off the bat, right?
Right.
And if we think about how users consume social media, if you have something like that from an episode that really resonates with users, gives them a little like the Costco sample of what that podcast episode is about, that is a really good use case for audiograms. Giving users who may not have listened to that episode yet or who haven't even listened to the whole show yet, just that little sample. So audiograms do work really well for that. Um, you are competing though with everything else on social media. If there's something more interesting in the feed, people are going to keep scrolling to try to find it. But if you have interesting moments in your show, things that are educational, impactful, hilarious, those could potentially make some good audiograms. If you do want to go that route, I would suggest looking at vertical style video and using like an Instagram Reel, Facebook Reels placement for those little audio snippets.
I love all of that stuff is so key. One of the ways that I remember, because I think that there is a value to some audiograms as well, in the same way that you're talking about, like that the funny story, if you will, from She Podcast, right? That in itself it's just going to call some attention to it for sure. Something that I've done in terms of audiograms in the past is I kind of thought outside of the box, which is that I literally I recorded something that was not in the episode. So I wasn't taking audio from the episode, but I created audio that was not from the episode and then layered it onto an image that was just an image of me. And then I had, obviously with audiograms, especially on things like Instagram, you can have those captions, and the captions on over the image, you're able to then listen to this little piece of audio that I created specifically to be made an audiogram. And I have found that is actually that was really helpful. I wasn't particularly using it for a podcast, as in like a podcast episode. But I do feel that it was really helpful to tell people about the podcast, right? So like as an overall tactic to be able to use them, because that video component that we see often is, I feel, a lot of people are going to still want to make the thing because it looks so fancy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does look fancy. And I think honestly, audiograms do have their place. I think they don't have as much weight as we'd like them to, but they do have their place. Especially like you said, if the content is resonant.
Yep.
So hopefully you feel some relief in that you don't have to make audiograms for every single episode, every single time,
Mm-hmm.
but using some of the tools that you have available could be helpful. And what else just described, y'all, if you go into Instagram stories, for instance, you could do that exact thing all with an Instagram story. And they have this option now where you can turn stories into reels. So you can literally create it within the app, turn it into a reel and keep going. So record everything within the app and then post it as a reel. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom.
That is awesome. That's really good. So that's number one, though, thing not to do. Now, but we do have more things not to do.
Yes.
So you said something else. Can you let us know what else you would like us to stop doing, please?
Yes. I want us to stop posting and ghosting. Okay. Y'all, we spend so much time on our episodes. I know the feeling. We spend the time recording the episode. We spend the time creating the episode. We then upload it, and now we have to promote it on social media, and we are tired by that point. And so we just post it, we go about our day. But what what is the true value of social media? It's not the media part, it's the social piece. We have the ability to connect with so many potential listeners online. And so I want us to think about ways that we can connect with our listeners and potential listeners on social media. So I'll give you a few examples of this. Whenever I share a new pod episode or even just any sort of post, I will instantly go into my DMs and look at people who I have conversations with and see if they'd be interested in that episode. I also would love for y'all to try to find new people to connect with as well. Just spend about 5 or 10 minutes a day to do this. I know, stranger danger, right? But here's the thing, we all listen to multiple podcast episodes, multiple shows. There's plenty of shows for us out there. It's not like we can have a polyamorous relationship where we can't have polyamorous relationships with podcasts, right? We can listen to as many as we want. So there are people who love listening to podcasts who have not discovered your show yet.
Mm.
So think about how you can get in front of those people. So for instance, if you have a show about yoga, I love yoga. I love yoga with Adriene. I do her 30-day challenge every year. She does not have a podcast though. So if
Mm.
I wanted to connect with her audience, I would go onto her social media channels and start networking and engaging with the people who like yoga with Adriene, and they also would like a yoga podcast in their ear holes. So think about, some of those types of social connections that you can make on social media as well.
I love that because I mean again, let's be real about time and resources because this is something that I feel all of us have to really keep an eye out for ourselves, right? So, time and resources, let's say you are I don't want to harp on the audiograms because I do feel that there's obviously a lot of wonderful power in terms of video production. And there's been a lot of really great tips in the chat, by the way. Y'all check it out and we'll maybe talk about some of those in there as well. So there is a video component that I do feel is incredibly powerful. But when it comes to time and resources, what if, and I'm just putting this out there, folks, you guys can check it out. What if instead of creating content to promote your episode on your own feed, you spent some time, like Andrea was just talking about, engaging with other people around your content, around like adjacent to what you were talking about, right? Engaging with with yoga and Adriene, yoga with Adriene's community and starting to have a conversation in there. If you have a yoga podcast, I do feel that if your resources in terms of time and attention are small, maybe consider shifting it up and see what is going to have more impact for you, right? I think that's something worth noting, possibly.
Yeah, I think we do spend a lot of time creating content. And that's because a lot of us are content creators. Like creating a podcast is a fun thing to do. But you know that saying, like, if a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it?
Yeah.
And we we don't want that feeling on social media or with our shows. We spend so much energy creating it. We would love for people to listen to it, and they may not stumble upon it on accident. So how do we help them find it? Usually it's showing up in places where they're already hanging out, like in the comment section of their favorite creators.
Totally. And so we've got two things. So we have stop posting audiograms, we have stop posting and ghosting, and then we have number 3.
Yes, number 3 is one of my favorites, and it's kind of goes along with the trends we'll talk about later. But let's stop promoting so hard. I think social media let's say 5 years ago, it was a lot of fun to promote because we said, hey, we have this thing. And everyone was like, oh, I just found this thing. Let me go listen to it. But there's so many things now. So when we have our new episodes, sometimes we go, hey, here's a new episode. Here's what it's about. Go listen to it. When a storytelling element is way more powerful, it's a more powerful way to talk about this. So think about I like to think about what my audience is feeling right before they want to listen to this episode. So for example, I just released a 2-part episode on ChatGPT on my podcast. And the week before that, I started asking people, how do you feel about ChatGPT? So I'm instead of just talking about, hey, I've got these 2 episodes coming out, I'm using questions to engage the audience. I'm using storytelling, like using ChatGPT to, write out prompts for, meals I should make for my daughter, whatever odd thing I could do with the tool. And then I'm saying, hey, I release these episodes. So getting the audience buy-in into the topic can really help the conversion happen on the other end for what we want them to do, which is listen to those podcast episodes. This can also work really well with other forms of content. One of my favorite ways to do this is also through a carousel post. So using something like a carousel post to promote an episode, we're starting off with a question first or a statement, and then leading into a few storytelling elements, and then saying, hey, if you want to listen more, listen to this podcast. Is it more work? A little bit. It takes a little bit more thought, but is it worth it? Absolutely. I think that when I look at the results that our show has gotten specifically, a lot of the topics actually for future episodes come from the conversation, from listening to my audience instead of saying, hey, here's this thing, you got to go consume it.
Yeah, it's like thinking outside of the box from it's like a pre-promotion and you don't even have to be so tactical about it. Sometimes it really stems from a curiosity, I think, for all of us as podcasters and content creators, that maybe it's a very simple thing that you are trying to figure out with your content. I do feel it's a little bit easier for those of you who have podcasts that are pre-planned, if you will. You know what I mean? Like things like if you have like a series of 3 episodes, or that you are guiding the stuff that you're going to be creating in the future, and it's something that you've preconceived, versus some of us that do work like mine, which is a little bit more of the moment. Like we are covering things as they're coming up and they feel a little bit more, timely. And the execution, the tactical, strategic execution on that is a little bit more challenging, but it still can be done, because things that I've done is, let people behind the scenes, like I'm getting ready to record, blah, blah. Do you have any questions? Hey, have you used this type of microphone? What do you think about that? And I've seen that comes back to me all the time and I'm able then to be able to promote them, right? The people who have engaged with me, and put that on social, because that also becomes content for me whenever that kind of engagement happens, for sure. So I love
actually,
love
as
that.
you were
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I thought of an example that I actually discovered a podcast, Today in Marketing. Do y'all listen to that podcast?
I do not.
Todd. Okay. I actually discovered it on TikTok. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So there was a video that was making fun of like all the changes happening at Meta. And it was like a little bit of a skit. And I listen to the podcast now, even though I heard of it before. I listen to the podcast because that skit let me into the personality of the podcast host. And I was like, oh, he gets it. And so I think that's what I mean about like the storytelling element. Exactly what you said about the behind the scenes. It's like, let people in a little bit, give them a little bit something different than, here's just a new episode. I'm listening to this podcast because I'm like, oh, this guy is totally, have the vibe I would want. And it's definitely it's a daily marketing news podcast. So it can be dry sometimes,
Yeah.
but he adds a little bit of personality. And I think that sort of strategy works really well, and it can be applicable no matter what style podcast you have.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. And I have to like put a pin on an idea that I have right now about pop culture that's happening at this moment. And I'll be circuitous in how I give you an example of how exactly what you're talking about right now is happening, in the sense that I've discovered like at least 4 new podcasts, or I've listened to 4 new podcasts just because of this one thing. But before we get to that, all right, storytelling components of it. I'm all in for all of that stuff, but I actually have a question, because one thing that I often teach folks, whenever it is about seeing the podcast on TikTok. Okay, so Andrea, can you? This is not in the show notes, if you will, of our Loretto show, but can you tell me what are the actions that you took when you looked at TikTok and you were like, oh my God, that seems like a really cool podcast that I would like to listen to? What did you do next? Like, what was when you looked at the TikTok, and then what? What are those steps?
Listen, see, I won't show up in the data because I instantly exited TikTok and I went to Spotify, which is where I love to listen to podcasts. And then I subscribed from there, and I like just binge listened through a bunch of episodes. So for data doesn't have me anywhere, probably. In fact, TikTok probably has a negative impression of me because I saw his video and then left their app, which they don't like. TikTok does not like when that happens, or any social platform. So especially as podcasters, it's so challenging to track that. But that was my process, in that I saw a video. He didn't promote his show at all. Okay. He just had this little skit. I went to his profile. I saw host of Today Marketing, and then I went to Spotify and subscribed.
So, okay, but we're going to break that down, folks, because she's dropping some really important things here. So let's remove the data from the equation there. But because we're looking at behavior, and this is something we as humans, and we are teaching our people how to consume our content. Andrea does consume podcasts, so she's not a newbie when it comes to that. But what did you read? Like, when you saw that, did the person doing the TikTok have the name of their podcast as they were talking? Was it in their bio? Where was the name of the podcast?
The name of the podcast was in the bio. So I went to the profile to actually follow him, because TikTok just showed it to me, right? I didn't know of it. So I went to the profile, follow him. I saw host of Today in Marketing. I think that's the name of it. Mm-hmm. And then I exited TikTok, went to Spotify, typed it in, saw the face of the same guy on the cover art, and was like, this is it, and hit subscribe.
Oh my God. All right. So first of all, same person, right? Face matters, because you're able to at least look at that. So to me, that tells me branding needs to be consistent, because even if your face is not on your branding, your colors probably need to be. The second thing that I see all the time that often a lot of podcasters don't do, and this is so basic, is that you've got to have the exact name of your podcast easily found. The exact name, not my podcast is, and then like, let's say you have a handle for your podcast too, but it's like shortened and it's not exactly the name. Why? Because there's some people who are going to go search for your show. In a lot of search apps, you need to put the exact title of the show. So you got to have that exact name in there. You've got to think about what somebody like Andrea is going to be looking for when doing that kind of a thing, which gets me to one of the key things about storytelling that is outside of the social component, in addition to what Andrea is talking about, that you always have to think about what the behavior of the end user is going to be taking when they see your post, as in like, where are they? Are they in front of their computer? What are they going to do there? Are they taking a run and they like somehow they're like, running and watching TikTok. So who knows? Maybe people do that. But but it's like, but seriously, where are they? Like, what are they doing? And what are the next steps? Because the friction between them seeing you and being able to consume your content is what we're trying to stop. And so I'm going to ask a question to anybody who's here. Can you raise your hand or say, have a little heart, put something in there? How many of you have posted something on social about your podcast and then followed the action that you wanted your audience to take yourself? How many of you have posted a social media update with a link or something? Listen to my latest episode, or hey, this was really good. However you're promoting it, wherever. How many of you have taken the action you're asking your potential audience to take? Because you got to do it. If not, you're going to be sitting there like going, why is nobody finding me? Why can't they, like, why am I not getting enough links, link clicks, or all of those things? And the only reason that you wouldn't know that would be if you took that action from that link. Like, what are you expecting to do? So let's see. I'm still waiting, y'all. I'm still waiting. I don't see any hands.
This brings up something else that, a little bit of a tactic that I've been doing lately on my account is, so I used to take the post itself and kind of do a format for Instagram stories, and Instagram is where I tend to spend a lot of time. But what I notice is, me personally, I don't scroll through the feed a lot. I'm in my stories all the time. So I've just been taking the original post, sharing it to my stories, and adding a link there. And we've actually seen in Google Analytics, it'll tell you if someone's clicking links in Instagram stories. And we found more people are clicking links in the story than the link in the bio. I think it's just you can link to something so specific, and the link in the bio has like a list of things that we all put in there, right? This is just a case study of one over here, but it's just something that I've been trying out lately just based on how I use the apps.
Oh my God, yeah. Absolutely. I've been looking at that kind of stuff too. And first of all, you have to, for those of you watching here, what Andrea just said, that is why she is like an expert, is the fact that she's actually taking note of her own insight into what she's doing. And I'm sure that you use a little bit of that to help your clients. Now, you don't really need Andrea to be the one that's thinking. You can actually think yourself. You can trust your instinct when you're consuming your own social, whatever behavior you have in certain platforms, I guarantee other people are doing the same thing. So you have to trust that instinct that says, hey, I should probably change my link and have it be XYZ. Hey, I could, maybe I shouldn't post that. Maybe I should post it on Twitter versus Instagram. Trust your own instincts, because I promise you probably know a lot more about how to grow your audience if you trust yourself. Yeah, because it's a huge thing for me to be able to see that kind of stuff and realize that a lot of folks really do need a little bit more hand holding whenever you're moving into that situation. Now, let's go ahead and move into, if you don't mind, would you like to wrap up some of the things that they don't need to be doing, the thing that they need to be doing? And if not, we will be moving into some social media trends, and then we are going to be discussing some of the questions here. So, yes.
Yes. And I think you put a really nice bow on that, Elsie, with like thinking about the human who's going to be consuming this content. Take off the content creator hat or the marketer hat for just a second and think about the person on the other side. What are they hoping to see on the app? What are they hoping to enjoy? What are they hoping to consume? And then reverse engineer that. Think about some of the things the actions you want to take, the actions that you want your audience to take as well. And storytelling, this is why storytelling works so huge here. When we think about everything that we need to stop doing, it's really focused on the other person's experience and reducing that friction of, how do they go from point A, B to C to D? And oftentimes it starts with point A, which is, can we even get them interested in what we're talking about in the first place?
Oh my God, that's it. Yes, yes, yes. And that doesn't change as much as you would think. Like that doesn't, there's not really, at least that I have seen, been a tactic, I would say maybe a tool, a platform, a tool, like a fancy, sparkling, glittery something or other that you're looking at going, ooh, that's fancy. Like there's almost never been a tool like that that has impacted listenership. Usually it is the thing that does that is the storytelling. And I've seen that it doesn't matter if I'm using a video, if I'm using an image, if I'm using my own words, like in terms of text.
Yes.
If the story is clear in whatever I choose, that's what's going to get that link, that listen, versus the tool itself, right? So it's something for us to really pay attention to. So on that note, what are some social media trends that you've seen? And I'm thinking like within the past like 6 months or so, because social media has shifted. Like I'm amazed by what has happened in social in the past 6 months. It's like everything got shaken up and moved around, and you're like, whoa, that used to, like, that's not even the same place it used to be. So there's been so much that has changed. Oh my God. Give us some top trends that you've seen that are happening right now.
Yes. Okay. So it has shifted. If you're feeling it, we're all feeling it. I feel like I had a baby and then came back and was like, wait, what happened? But it's video, 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 and not just any video, but like a TikTok style vertical video. So a lot of what's happening on TikTok right now is impacting other channels. Now we have Instagram Reels, we have YouTube Shorts, we have Pinterest idea pins. Even today, Twitter just released a whole new video marketing strategy because video is what everyone wants to consume. Now, if you're not a video person, like we all chose podcasting for a reason, right? Because maybe we don't want to be on video that much. You don't necessarily have to be on video yourself, but we did talk about today a lot of different ways you can create video. I'm a huge fan of Canva. And they have video making components within Canva that you can use. They don't have to be long videos, but as long as we're creating that TikTok style, TikTok-esque video, that's what users want to consume right now.
Yeah, it is. And, it's so funny when I start to think about the, what you're especially calling attention to the fact that almost every tool that you can use to create a video has the option of that vertical layout for as an export. And as we were talking about audiograms in the past, we have historically looked at audiograms as a square because we were using them primarily on our feeds. But it might actually work better to just grab like a 15-second audiogram and put it in your story, or shorts, right? Like on YouTube Shorts. So there's so many ways in which you can use the thing outside of how you think it needs to be used, and it'll just open us up. Yeah.
Yes. So so if you're looking for a creative way to do this and you don't want to be on video, Tara McMullen does this with her podcast, What Works, and she's using video without actually being the video herself. And it's vertical video. It's designed with the platforms in mind, and she has evolved with her process. I've actually had her on my podcast twice now to talk about how she's evolved her strategies over the years to keep up with social media and still respect her own boundaries, which is she doesn't want to be on video herself. That being said, if you do like being on video, it is your time to play, my friends. It is so fun. I love being on video. I've been having a blast. And people love consuming video. So when you think about your podcast and how you are converting people, using video is a no-brainer at this point.
I love, 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 love that. And by the way, we at Libsyn, we're creating all kinds of really amazing resources for you to be able to use video in the way that feels the best for you. Because, like you said, like Tara McMullen is an incredible marketer, and she's always very innovative about the things that she does in the space. And being able to you don't have to, I don't want you to think that I have a camera here, I have lights, as you can see. We've spent some money trying to put this stuff together to be on video, but there are so many different ways. There's so many ways to be able to use video, and point of view videos are something that, like, as in, like, the camera's not facing you but you're walking around. My kid actually just created this really great video following our cat, and she put like all of these little like talking things that came up out of it. She's just doing it just to play. It's not like she doesn't have a social media account, but I thought, oh my God, it's so funny. And there's no audio. It's literally just little bubbles that are popping up. And I thought, my God, that is so, so smart to be able to do stuff like that. And she's not on the camera. She's just moving through it. All right. What else needs to be happening on social that we need to pay attention to and draw attention to ourselves besides video?
Yes. So the next two things are definitely what's trending right now. And I see this trending for the rest of the year: interactive content and authentic content. So interactive meaning people want to comment, they want to have an opinion. You'll see this with the way people are stitching videos on TikTok or in Instagram stories. You can put a question sticker, or on Twitter you can share a poll. On LinkedIn, polls are really interactive right now. So what we're seeing is community members want to participate with you. They don't necessarily just want to sit back and consume. So as a podcaster, how can you engage that need to interact? And authentic content kind of goes along with that. In that, we're having this moment right now on social media. I blame Gen Z for this, where not everything has to be perfectly polished. Like, they're anti like glam, have the ring light, they're just like, show up as you are in your car with the hoodie on,
Yeah.
like that's the style of content that's working really well right now. If you notice the videos that are going viral, especially videos that are for the end consumer, so if you're outside of the business to business space, they're not super polished. Maybe someone said the wrong word. Maybe like their kids like flailing in the background. Those types of videos are resonating with people. It's kind of like when reality TV hit the television market, where,
Yeah.
we want to see what real life is. Maybe it's not 100% authentic, but it's close enough that we feel that we relate to it. So those two types of content, totally trending right now.
Love all of that. And then lastly, you added this to the mix here as we were prepping for this. And I think that everybody kind of wants to know a little bit about it, but let us talk about Chat GPT.
Oh, yes, Chat GPT. This is a hot topic right now. I think this will it'll pick up steam and then it'll fade away. Similar. Okay, so to me, Chat GPT is like when the iPhone came to market, where it was this new type of technology that everyone was interested in. But then very quickly, all of the cell phone companies created smartphones. And now we don't even really think about, like, if we're going to buy a phone, it's probably going to be a smartphone. Like, we don't
Yeah.
think about it, even though that only happened, 10, 15 years ago. So I think ChatGPT is having a moment right now where it is a chat based artificial intelligence that I believe is just going to be embedded into many of the things that we do everyday life anyways. Google's released version of this, Canva has this, Notion has this now. So I think it's going to help assist us create new content. I, in fact, uploaded some podcast episodes to ChatGPT and asked it to give me some more ideas. I said, here are my top performing episodes. Can you give me ideas along this line? And it gave me ideas. And so it could be great for social media posts as well. I do see this as a fad, though. This is definitely one of those trends that'll be really flash in the pan, and then I think it's going to go away in about 6 months.
Yeah, it's everywhere at this point, and I think that there's also, and it's one of those things where the majority of folks out there, it's like whenever I love that you use the iPhone as an idea for this because can you imagine there was a time when somebody thought the iPhone was outside of their everyday life, like who needs something like that in their life, right? That is the fancy thing, that is something for the geeks, or that's something that's not that I don't need that. Why should I even have that? And then there was the other side of those folks who were like, this is going to fundamentally change things. It's going to be this and that. The way that Steve Jobs came into the mix and essentially revealed what it was. And then there's the point of what it actually did, right? Yes, it did fundamentally change the way that we interact with our technology for sure. But it also showed us all these ways that people are using iPhones and how it impacted how we consume social, and how now it's impacting so much the social, the iPhone way, the mobile way of consumption. That OS is affecting the computer OS, and we had no idea how all of that stuff was going to happen. I do feel that ChatGPT is going to do that as well. We're in a position right now where, like, I don't know what it is. Oh my God, it's so scary. Are we going to be losing our minds to robots? Will robots take over the world? And then there's the people who are going, wow, this is an amazing tool for us. It's going to fundamentally change things. And then we're going to see exactly what that impact is. And we're in that position of just having it, see what happens as we move into the future. So,
Yes,
it's going to be nuts. Go ahead.
it's going to be wild. And I think that, everything that we talked about today, you can kind of apply it to your niche or your podcast. So if it's not ChatGPT, it's something else that has your people, your community kind of buzzing. And that is another trend right now. And I don't see that one going away anytime soon. So if you combine all of these, I actually have a great example of the results and how this affects your podcast, because I think sometimes we like to play on social media and then we go, wait, how does this actually get me new listeners? So my client, Lily Womble, she went viral on TikTok, and she did interactive content and authentic content on video. So all the trend talking about today, she stitched a video of another person, meaning that there was a 5-second clip at the beginning of the video of someone else asking a question, and then she recorded another 50 seconds kind of responding to it. The video itself got over 1 million views, and then she saw instant increase in podcast downloads. And then she turned that into video content as well, saying, hey, thanks to all my new listeners, now we're ranking on the podcast charts right next to Glennon Doyle. So when we think about the impact that kind of leaning into some of these trends can have on your show, once people discover you, once they feel like they can relate to you, it's an easy yes for them to go, oh, I got to listen to this podcast now.
When we want those easy yeses, right? And also you have to be ready for those yeses, because if you do happen to hit it big for something that you created on social, and then you got all these people downloading your show, but your show is maybe not quite where you would like it to be in terms of content and production and those things, then you're going to lose them. And we don't want that. We want you to keep them. We want you to be ready for all of that stuff. So I think that we have gotten to the Q&A portion of our show today. And it looks like we do have some lovely questions happening in here. Let me see. I think we had a question from Heavy Hockey Network, and I believe they asked, meaning taking action on someone else's, and I believe that had to do with my call to action to you all, for you to let me know if you had taken action on your own post. So not somebody else's. I want you to take action on your own post, because well, I mean, if you want to take action on somebody else's, that's fine. But you're the one that's putting that stuff out there. So if it's not working for you, see what worked and what didn't work for you. And then make adjustments, because it's never going to be the same. Things continually change all the time. So give it a go for yourself. That would be amazeballs. Let's see. We had another question from somebody that said, did you discuss Chartable yet? Anyone using it? Any other services like Chartable that are recommended? Do you have any thoughts about Chartable? Lovely Andrea.
I do use Chartable. So we release episodes on Tuesday. So I have a recurring task in my Asana to look at it on Wednesday to see
Mm,
if we rank. Now, it's a vanity project.
mm.
Ranking in Apple Podcasts doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I like to see it mostly because I use this for marketing. So we stayed in the top 100 of the marketing podcasts for about 2 years. This we saw a dip in that. Even though we have more downloads now, there are just more podcasts now. So we're not ranking in the top 100. So I use it as an opportunity to see what other shows out there are getting more listeners than mine, and how can I offer something a little bit different. So I use it as a market research tool. I do like to pat myself
Mm.
on the back a little bit when we are ranking in the top 100. I definitely make content about that and say we're ranking in the top 100, so go listen to the podcast. So I do use it in that way. I'm curious, Elsie, do you use it in any other way yourself?
No, I don't. I think part of it is because of that. It is really a marketing type of tactic. It's sort of like, I've always taken the screenshots, and not to say to diminish what an occasional feature on things like Spotify and like, Apple Podcast really does for you, especially when they're focusing on very specific things and featuring your content. It's a great time to take a screenshot, right? And that
Yes.
screenshot is going to be so great for whenever you do your marketing, which is optimizing your website, making sure your landing page is on point, being able to put buttons into the look at me, I'm being featured by XYZ, putting it on social, calling attention to yourself. But in terms of direct correlation between what you see on places like Chartable or Listen Notes or whatever else comes to you, it doesn't really actually get you more audience. I mean, it might get you a few more people to check out your stuff, as always, right? But it may not hold them, and that's where I feel like that genuineness, that authenticity, that they can look at your feed and go, oh my god, like what you said about that person with the marketing thing. Oh, they get it, right? Because they're giving
Yeah.
you a point of view. It isn't top 10 marketing tips to make your business thrive. They are giving you some very specific stuff through a lens that you're like, I want to know more about that person. That's what we want people to say. So yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah, yay. I'm gonna look at to see if there's anything else in here that we have any other questions, folks. Let me see. I'm actually favoriting some things in here. If you do see something, here we go. Hold on. I think this is a question. Um, is having your show business name, is if it's a turnoff for people, should I change my account name to the podcast name? And what about logos as a profile pic? Does that turn off too?
Yes. So we are in the age of what I would call the content creator, and that people want to know the person behind the brand.
Mm.
So personality based accounts are working. I would suggest you scroll through your feed and see how many logos you see and how many faces you see. Not to say that there's anything against a logo, but if we see a logo, then the brand itself has to have a huge personality. I think about brands like Ben and Jerry's. I think about brands like um, Duolingo.
Mm.
They even like old school Taco Bell on Twitter. Those are companies, but they have a perspective that's very strong that can stand with them. So having that could be helpful for you. As far as the name change, it really depends on what you have for the future of your brand. So if there is any co-hosted or panel style shows, I do recommend having a separate account for those. And then each person on the show will have their own accounts. If it's just you hosting the show, typically having the account under your name gives you more options for the future, depending on what direction your personal brand takes. But it really is a personal decision at that point. What do you think, Elsie, as having your own accounts, and then you do a lot with Libsyn and you do a She podcast? What do you do? Like, how do
Yeah, I
you
have.
navigate that?
It's tough because I think if I only had one brand, you know what I mean? Because represent so many, or my content in so many different places. I think that I would probably still lean towards keeping things for myself. I really do love the way that Alexandra Cooper uses Instagram, the host for Call Her Daddy, because I follow both of those accounts, her Call Her Daddy account, and then I follow her personal account. And there's a very distinct difference between one and the other, but they are absolutely intertwined. Like I don't think that I would choose. I guess if I were to just follow one, it would be her personal account, because I like to see her engaging, and then she'll post behind the scenes podcasting content as well as real life stuff. But her Call Her Daddy account itself is almost 100% episode. This is what's coming up for Call Her Daddy. Like here's a, video portions, up next, coming up tomorrow, it's ready, and and then she reposts it. So I do like to see that, but I tend to only go to that account when she posts it on her personal stories. But and so it's a very interesting thing, but I can also see a very distinct, I think it's freeing for me as a personality to go I'm able to post about my cats and post about my podcast episode, and it's okay, versus I can't post about my cats on my podcast account. It feels like that's a little too jarring, and right. So I think that gives me a little bit more freedom is what I'm thinking for that. So
yeah, I like that. Plus, I'm not a fan of managing multiple accounts. I just don't have the time. It's too much.
Not at all. Yeah. So we have a question here from Sima. She says, "Do you use Capshow? Do you know what that is?"
I don't know what that is.
I'm gonna do a quickie search because we can.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, it's an AI thing, right? Yes, I have seen this. That's why it was so familiar. I have seen this in the past. I may be wrong, but my partner in crime, Jessica Kupferman from She Podcast, CEO of She Podcast, I believe she has used this in the past. I'm not sure she's using it now, but it's just a service that does all of the things. Oh, and I did see. Who was it? Kate Erickson, who also did another live event with us here. She found out about Capshow at Podcast Movement Evolutions. I guess they were there, and she was very impressed by what the team is doing over at Capshow in order to be able to do all the things. So it looks like it's got all kinds of stuff really happening to it, but I personally do not have direct experience with using Capshow.
Neither do I, but if y'all check it out, let me know what you think.
I know, right? We have one other little question here before we wrap it up. Sneaky Art says, what programs do you use for audio editing and video teaser production? So this is specifically going into the audiogram point of view or the vertical video. So what have you been using, Andrea?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Headliner for podcasters. It's because you can add other video clips and you can do some editing things to make it a little more interesting. So I like Headliner for that. If you're just creating video outside of that, so maybe questions about the podcast or something like, I like to use CapCut. That's a great, they have a mobile and a desktop editing version. For audio, I used to use GarageBand, but y'all, it's just not for me. So I outsource that now. My team does it. I don't listening to my own voice.
Oh my God.
So
We were just talking about this
please.
for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with all the tools that use my CapCut. My kids use it all the time, and they use it specifically to create. They use audio a lot. Audio as in like they will download audio in the same way that people use
Mhm.
audio on TikTok and things like that. And they will use bits of audio of somebody else's video, and then they create their own little video thing with this audio in the background. And it seems, I mean, they figured it out all on their own. Another app that I use that is really, I feel it's incredibly powerful. Mind you, I don't use CapCut, even though they're like, Mom, that's exactly like CapCut. Why don't you use CapCut? It's called Splice, and it's also for iOS. And it is so easy to edit stuff on there, man. I'm like, amazeballs. So it's really, really, really good. Love it, love it, love it. In terms of audio stuff, you know who does really good stuff currently? Hindenburg has been doing great stuff to be able to get some transcriptions. It's Hindenburg 2 beta that has just come out. Descript does a really good job being able to create quickie audiograms built into the interface when you're editing and stuff, which is amazing. And weirdly, a lot of the apps, like not weirdly, but awesomely, the podcast apps like Castro or Overcast have the ability for you to create audiograms inside of the app when you share it. And you can have long form like Instagram stories or squares. Most people don't really know that, but if you go inside of the app and you press you can actually choose the audio that you want, and then you can export it out, and you can export it out to proportions that you want, and it's already built in. It's so amazing.
Wow.
It's really great.
That's
Anyway,
pretty cool.
I have had such a wonderful time with you today. I don't want to keep you here any longer. I know that you do so much incredible work. And folks, if you want to find Andrea anywhere, she's on Online Drea. I know I was going to say you can find her online. OnlineDrea.com. If you go to OnlineDrea.com/free, what do they get?
They get access to my free course. So y'all, if you want to dive deeper into social strategies, the foundational work that it takes to tell stories, to show up consistently, and to promote your show, it's 100% free. And just like I said, that Costco sample version of your podcast, this is a Costco sample version of everything I do. So if you want to learn everything from writing captions to creating a schedule, I even have some captions already written for you and some graphics already designed for you in the course. It's onlinedrea.com/free.
And you all need to follow. These are the places I personally connect with Andrea on Instagram. So follow her, Online Drea. She's some killer content that she's putting out there. It's really, really great stuff. So you must go follow her. Like right now, open up your little device, go follow her on Instagram, please. Go ahead and give her a love and tell her how much you loved her doing the thing here. And also on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, because I love her so much, she shifts the conversation a little bit and she gives you a completely different point of view around the work that she's putting out there. And of course, she does have her podcast. Can you tell us a little bit really quickly about your podcast so that folks can go ahead and subscribe to or follow the show?
Yeah. So the show is for anyone who wants to use social media as a tool to grow your business or your content, your podcast. So we have episodes that come out every Tuesday. For example, I just released, like I said, 2 episodes on ChatGPT and how you can leverage that. And then next week I have an episode coming out on the tests and experiments that I'm running on social media right now. So if you basically want someone who does this for their clients, does it for themselves, and does all the testing for you, and you want to get the goodness at the end, that's the podcast.
Yep. So good, folks. I'm telling you, it's like having your own little expert in your pocket. So you have to subscribe and always go to her first whenever you have questions about social, because I promise you, Andrea has covered it. Because I always go like, wait, has she said it already? Oh, it's already there. Oh, great. Thanks, Andrea. And so you make my job so much easier. Anyway, thank you so much, Andrea. It has been an amazing time having you here. We are, stay tuned. Please subscribe. Follow us here on YouTube, please. We have some incredible stuff happening next month and the following months all around video podcasting. And it's going to blow your mind because you're going to be like, what? So please, and then also take a look at some of the content we've been putting out. Again, a lot of the content that we're putting out there is directly from you. So if you want to see something specific from us, drop it in the comments, send us a little DM somewhere on social, follow us all in all the different places, and our team will make sure to take care of you. Again, thank you so much, Andrea, for being here, and hopefully we'll have you on again. Bye,
Yes,
y'all.
please. And thanks, everyone. Bye.